So I've been away for 6 weeks, and Daniel Moloney, who's actually our revenue director of revenue and performance, kind of the main guy that's driving our sales and lettings teams, the guy that's on the ground with his finger on the pulse of what's happening. We reported our best ever July on record, and historically, July and August, are perceived slower months because I think a large part of the population tend to go to their home country or certainly on holiday.
They do.
Tell me about what happened, mate, in July.
Yeah, no, look, we had record July since we've opened. And look, I've said this a few times, but 17, 18 years we've been open for now. When we're saying that we're posting record figures, it actually means something. If a company's been open for like 12 months and they have a record July, wow. But yeah, it's a record July since we've been open. Fantastic start to Q3. August has been incredibly busy as well. But it's across the business that we're seeing these records broken. Like the sales team had a fantastic result. We had our record month for the lettings team, second highest week in terms of revenue generated in the second week of July. So yeah, it's been incredibly busy. There hasn't really been the summer lull as you referred to it, because I think more and more people are staying here across the summer's call. I know you've obviously been away enjoying your holiday.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes, I have. Do you know, when you look at the summer, I always say to our staff, and particularly the rentals team, that you tend to have busier months in the summer, bizarrely, because you tend to have a lot of new teachers coming into the country.
Yeah.
There's lots of movement going on in regards to that every year. You also tend to see a lot of people either moving schools or moving into country. So a lot of that factor in. So the rentals business tends to be pretty busy during the summer. Do you know the July result as it is, and obviously August so far? Are there any particular departments or segments of our business, because we do operate across lots of different things, mortgages, lettings, commercial? Is there anywhere which has been more busy or more popular in terms of what's happening?
We had a record month for the commercial department as well last month. And there's been some statistics through from the Dubai government for H1 of this year. 7,700 businesses have registered here. There was record transactions for the first half of the year in terms of commercial real estate. So we always say, don't we, like, you look in terms of the business side of things, companies that are relocating here and things like that, people need to live somewhere. So the real estate market in terms of residential tends to follow what's happening in terms of the business market. So yeah, our commercial department's been incredibly busy. And then, like you said, the sales market as well. We set some records as well. In July, we set a record in Jumeirah Islands for the highest transaction for a master view villa at 43 million dirhams. So even like the luxury end of the market as well, we're still breaking those sorts of records too, which is really pleasing to see.
I read somewhere the other day, 10,000 British millionaires have already left the UK, and obviously I'm seeing every day lots of negative press towards millionaires in the UK.
Yeah,
it does seem, without me backing that up, a lot are moving to Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, you see the inflows and outflows, don't you? Yeah. I mean, I was back in the UK for a short period this summer for a couple of weddings, which were lovely. I enjoyed them. But you do see it, like, I mention it when I see the new starters downstairs when they're packing up and moving to Dubai. I hear people saying the L word around me.
The L word?
They're moving to Dubai for the lifestyle.
Okay.
I think you should always move to Dubai for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing when you look at the UK, especially people of a certain like sort of age group or demographic, like people who are starting out in careers, it just doesn't look, you haven't got the opportunities that you've got available here. And that's the one thing when people do move here, I want them to make the most of the opportunity they've got, because the real estate market for the last 5 years has been red hot. It's obviously going to take a dip eventually, but we don't know when that's going to be. But just make the most of the market we're in at the minute, because it isn't slowing down anytime soon.
It's interesting to say lifestyle, because I actually think the market has never been more competitive. I don't know, some numbers the other day. There have been roughly 800 real estate brokerages open since the end of May. So we're talking about that's 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
About 4,000 new brokers have entered into the market, so 4 per every new brokerage, give or take.
What's the total count now? About 30-odd thousand?
Yeah, about 33,000 licensed brokers, but obviously I would imagine there's going to be some unlicensed in the market also. Yeah. And then I think just under 9,000 real estate brokerages. Now we're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were talking 3,000. So there's been a huge increase. You said lifestyle. I think when you move to Dubai and work in Dubai real estate to be really, really, really successful, I actually don't think you have a life.
Not really. I mean, the job becomes your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter even if you are doing something socially, there's always an opportunity there to network and potentially get some business out of it. I know I always found when I was still on the tools, so to speak.
Yeah.
As soon as you mention it, you're in real estate, it's everybody's favorite question. What do you think's happening with the market?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it is a way of life if you're out here to try and make, if you're going to be a successful broker.
So not selling sunset, because it is.
No, it's not selling sunset.
No, but you do get phone calls from clients at ungodly times, and times really when you're either on holiday or even in the evenings when you're out with your family, and part and parcel of your job is to answer the call, right?
Yeah, 100%. I left. So I left my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife, but I left my girlfriend at the time on a beach. We're having a beach day, and I was like, "Look, I'm gonna have to go. I've got a viewing." But then the viewing went well. I ended up getting the contract done on it. I went back there like 4 or 5 hours late. I was like, "Where the hell have you been?" I was like, "Just got a deal done."
I can imagine you were absolutely the really popular that day with her.
Well, yeah.
So tell me what's happened this year then so far. So we are, I would say, nearly 65% through of the year.
Yeah.
I heard the other day from our great partners at Cavendish Maxwell Property Monitor, approximately 500 new units per day are coming into the market, which represented roughly 327 new launches.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've got a question for you actually when it comes to the off-plan side of things, because you've made some really shrewd investments, and you were making them before people were like hopping over fences trying to get things. It was before 2020 that you were making them. Do you see the same sort of opportunities available in the off-plan market now as what was available then?
Potentially, yes. But the thing is, where I actually made money on my properties, I held on to them.
Yeah.
Until they actually handed over. So you're in it for probably 4 years from reservation. And my advice to anyone buying something is don't even think about selling it midway through construction, because the chances of selling it are probably going to be quite small. You probably won't make any money on it, particularly right now. I think what we've seen is the number of transactions that happen after something's launched, sold, are very, very, they're limited.
They're really low.
Yeah, they don't happen a lot. So I think the old saying is timing market, not timing the market.
Yeah.
The longer you hold on to something, whether it's 4 years, 5 years, I actually think there's more money to be made, not at handover, but probably 2 years, 3 years after you've had it. Yeah, because the community's developed.
Yeah.
The network's there, the schools, the shops are open. So
it stabilizes as well, doesn't it? Like the pricing and stuff like that. Buyers can be a little bit more, they've got a little bit more confidence in terms of, okay, that's a good price for that unit because they've seen it transacting over a period of time.
Yeah.
The reason I was asking that is because you said like 500 units have handed over. What are these units though? Where are they? What are they? Is it going to be something where there's a lot of demand? I mean, I see things online where people are saying about, studio apartments getting launched for X price, buy it now, and it'll be worth this amount in a year's time. It's just, that's pure speculation for me. And if you look at the volume of like apartments, potentially in some locations, I'm looking at it over the next 3-5 years. And that's what I'm thinking, is there going to be much appreciation in those because there are so many which are coming to market? But on the flip side, you're looking at like townhouses and villas where in the secondary market, there's a massive shortage. In the off-plan market as well, I've not seen very many launches where that's the product which is being launched, where there's a huge demand for it still.
Yeah. I mean, look, for me, if you could buy in a development that is in a master community, there are lots of projects that are kind of buildings here, there, and everywhere, which there is nothing wrong with that, and some really, really good developers that can kind of execute really well and probably deliver on time also. But if it's in a master community, you kind of know what's happening in and around the area. There's a bit of control in terms of what happens, when it happens. There's normally a bit of consistency with everything there. So I would probably say start off with buying in a master community if you can. If you can't, then be looking at developer first.
Yeah.
Look at, and typically when you look at developer, you can look at the quality, their track record, do they deliver on time? But when you go into an off-plan investment, and you ask me about what I would do and looking forward to now, there are opportunities. But when you buy something, what's the objective?
Yeah.
I get every single person wants to make money, okay, but what you should be thinking is, okay, are you buying something to flip it? Okay, that for me is the absolute wrong strategy completely.
Hate the word.
I do hate the word as well. Are you looking to get capital appreciation, which is fine, and capital appreciation comes with time. So if you're buying something today, I would advise either at handover when there's the most excitement, but there's an argument to say that you may not get as much as you can, or 2 to 3 years after handover where things have settled down, people have got confidence in the area. But also, if you then look at something and say, right, I want to buy something off plan, I want to see growth in the marketplace where you're going to have 4 years of hopefully steady, slow property market growth. In the off-plan market at the moment, you're probably buying in line with the same price as secondary, maybe a little bit more. So you're paying that premium now, but you're paying money over 4 years. Granted, you're not making money on that money you're paying on, but what is happening is for every installment you make, for every year that happens, you would like to think that the property prices are growing anywhere between 8 and 14% per year. So at the end of the 3 to 4 year build time, the value of the property may have gone up anywhere between 30 to 40% compared to what's else. So and what I would say to people is, if you're doing that, don't bank on that happening, because it might not happen. We might have a slowdown during that period. But if you're doing rules up, and also the beauty about buying through us is, yes, we have great relationships with developers where we may be able to get you access on units that may not be possible elsewhere. But also we have a solution that when something's handed over, we can help you with the snagging. We can help you with the mortgage. We can help you with the long-term rental, which may buy you 2 years or 3 years of that property increasing in value. Or we can deal with a holiday home, short-term let, if we're buying in the right area, where we can maximise rental income. So it all comes back to strategy. Don't go into it thinking, I want to buy so I want to flip it, I want to make more money. That's the exactly wrong thing you should be doing. If you go into it and thinking, right, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to hold it, and realistically, I would say 7 years, good hold time. 4-year build, could be 3, depending on the development. 4-year build, 3-year hold, then sell. You could sell at 4 years at a handover, but the pool of buyers might be limited at that period because they're buying something which is still probably under construction in a surrounding area. Or you're buying to rent it, keep and hold it, set, forget, and move on to the next one. So
we think as well, to date, it still represents the largest portion of the market, doesn't it? It's above 60% of the transactions so far in 2025 are off plan.
And I get it, because some of the developments come into market, they are very attractive. And I'm very aware that a lot of these developers are using buzzwords such as redefining luxury, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what does that actually mean? But if you actually look at the development and the facilities and the amenities, which I think you should, if anyone buying something, that is really important. What does that building or development differ versus everything else is in the market today? And you see some of these villa communities where they're offering lagoons, and there's going to be really good F&B, or they might, silly sound, but some of these developments got podcast studios. Who's your demographic in there? What's different about a building? Because when it comes to handover, these things do make a difference.
That's what's going to set it apart, isn't it?
I mean, look, we talk about off plan. Still, if we look at the numbers, there still is nowhere near enough villa townhouses that have launched and have delivered.
There's 90,000 residents arriving in country just in Q1 alone this year. So 1,000 people a day were arriving here. Like you said, the summer, people do tend, when they're coming here, set up shop. That's when they go out and they start renting things and things like that. The time period as well that I think, in the 11 years I've been here, and you probably confirm as well, that it's taken from people arriving in the country to actually buying somewhere. I don't think it's ever been quicker, has it, in terms of people making that buying decision?
I think why that is more people now, when they move, are kind of going all in on Dubai, and let's say they're selling whatever they have in the UK, wherever they're coming from, because now Dubai has more of a track record. It's seen to be safe. It's not this bubble where it's going up and down. It's kind of steadily increasing, or it's increased quite a lot in the last 5 years. And people are thinking, okay, well, I'm prepared to sell everything and make the move quite quickly because my money's not at risk. We've had periods when we've opened where we've had cycles of 4 years of up and down. We're not there anymore. We've got more people in country. Last check I had, we were about 12,000 people shy of 4 million for Dubai population, which was amazing. Now, when I moved here, it was 1.9, 1.8.
Yeah, it's 2 and a bit when I was
So big change. I just think coming back to what you're buying, villa townhouses, buying right in the right development, right community, I don't really see the population going backwards because of what's happening around the rest of the world. And I still think, despite things going quiet on price, and if you've been here a little while, you may think, oh, it's expensive because you've seen what's happened in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But if you then take a step back and compare what you're buying, what you get, and what gets delivered versus maybe what you'd be buying in Manchester or London, it's still quite a big gap in what you get for your money.
Absolutely massive. Like, whenever we've been on these podcasts, we talk about like New York and like main cities, but if you look in just some of like just normal cities across the UK or across Europe, I mean, I went to a wedding there in Spain, and it was in a town called Figueres. It was an estate agents there, and I was looking at the properties that you could purchase there, and we're talking 4 or 5 million euros. And I was looking at what you were getting, and don't get me wrong, they were lovely houses, but I flip that across in terms of what you can get here. You can purchase a villa on the golf course in Jumeirah Golf Estates, Victory Heights, what you can get in the Arabian Ranches. There's still so much value for money for me in the Dubai market. It's going to continue to grow as long as people keep coming here.
Okay, so in terms of what's happening this month, I think we can agree it's more of the same. We're going into September. For us, we call it silly season.
Yeah.
Certainly Q4 is normally very, very busy for lots of different reasons. But I think the primary is most people are back in country.
Yeah.
What do you kind of foresee happening? Any trends happening between now and the end of the year? Is there any? Is it more of the same with regards to launches? Do you still see that steadily climbing property prices?
From the developers, a couple of the bigger developers, they have postponed their launches until after the summer. Okay. So I think you'll be seeing some exciting projects for the off-plan market coming towards the back end of summer. In terms of the secondary market, it's going to be more of the same. I mean, we sort of said, didn't we, like single digit, high, like low double digit growth for this year. That's what I think is going to continue to happen over the next 6 months, 12 months. I can see the prices continue to rise. We just look at the data in terms of the amount of client registrations that we're getting and the amount of viewings that the guys are out conducting, the amount of properties we're bringing to the market. They're all steady and they're all increasing gradually. So if you base it on that, I can't see it slowing down anytime soon. And there's always comments where people say, oh yeah, you're estate agents, you are going to say that, but don't believe us. Just look at the land department data which is being released. They've just released something there today in terms of record transactions for July.
Are there any particular areas where we're seeing more transactions, or maybe areas where you're thinking, wow, okay, we're seeing some upticks? I mean, if we look at the Al Qudra Road, for example, where you've got Town Square and all of your developments down there, if you spoke to someone that lived there, maybe a year ago, they would probably give you feedback to say, look, it's difficult in certain times to get in and out. And obviously there's been loads of changes to the roads, which is what I love about Dubai, by the way. It's so adaptable and recognising pain points. Are there any areas where we're seeing people shift in terms of, maybe budget restrictions or, focus on certain communities due to lifestyle?
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of where you're getting the value for money and where you can actually enter the market, if you're looking for a villa townhouse, communities like you've said there, like stuff like Town Square, Damac Hills too, we're seeing a huge demand for that. The Valley, which is a new community, which is currently in the process of being handed over by EMAR. Villas, townhouses there. Currently there's 400 townhouses which are being handed over, 3 and 4 beds. You're entering the market there at around about the 2.5 to 3 million dirham mark. If you look at the equivalent property in the likes of a Springs, your entry point now for a 3M, you're talking 5 million, 5 and a bit million dirhams. So you are getting into an EMAR community, same as EMAR South as well, in Dubai South. There's value for money there for people who are wanting to enter the market and get on that ladder.
What do you think to Dubai South, EMAR South? Because circling back to your first point, which was I bought some developments in 2019, 2020, which were perceived miles away.
Well, Ranches 3 is a good example, isn't it? We're seeing huge demand at the minute for Ranches 3. It's the second or third highest transacted villa community so far this year, I believe, as per the land department's figures. But that is because it is the entry point to get onto the ladder. But yeah, Ranches 3, we also miles away, but that's where the major developments are along that.
I looked at it, it was 1.2 million dirhams for a 3-bed townhouse, irrespective of size. It was going to rent or going to sell. But what do you think to Dubai South? Because when I speak to people about there, or even like the Palm Jebel Ali people, right now people are saying, what are you buying there for? Is it there?
I think as a rule of thumb, especially if I was looking to make an off-plan investment, I would look at the major infrastructure projects that the government are planning. And if you go down to Dubai South, we're in Motor City at the minute. I've been down and done site visits there with Mark, who's the MD. It's 22 minutes. We timed it. It's 22 minutes straight down the 311. If you look at the size of the roads there, they're all 4x4. It's geared up for some major development over the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Where that for me is where Dubai's shifting. That's where DWC is going to be expanding, new home of Emirates. You've mentioned the Palm Jebel Ali, which is a completely different proposition to Dubai South. But if you look at the main government spending, the infrastructure that's going in there, extensions to the metro line, obviously they spent all of the money for Expo as well. They're repurposing that to be a business hub. It's a great investment if you look at it from that perspective. That's where the main projects are going to be over the next 5 years, 10 years. So I think that's where Dubai is going to be shifting.
I often say money's to be made in what you can't see, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot happening there, and people are saying, well, there's nothing there right now.
No.
But I mean, it's not to say in 5-10 years there won't be. So I think you should sometimes be a bit brave, have confidence that if people like Emar and Nikhil and Maras are investing lots of money in these areas, there's going to be a lot happening in and around it.
Imagine purchasing on the Palm Jumeirah a garden home for 2 million dirhams before they even dredged a single grain of sand there.
Yeah.
You know, it's you've got to have that. Look, there is a risk attached to it. You know, you've got to...
The risk of anything, mate.
Without risk, there's not going to be any reward. But like you said, the population where it's at now, people are staying here a lot longer. There's all sorts of incentives why people would stay here, like the Golden Visa scheme and things like that. People's time horizons in terms of how long staying here for, they've just expanded. So it's a lot more stable than what it was back when they launched Palm Jumeirah, when they launched JVR.
I'm interested to know, because I appreciate, you're responsible for hundreds and hundreds of people across letting, sales, commercial. Who's buying? Years ago, it was common that investors were buying properties. Is there, from your feeling, what is the mix of people?
It depends. So if you take like some of the newly handed over communities, what you tend to see there, you've got the seller side of the equation where that will be someone who's purchased the property off plan. It will tend to be an investor. But on the buying side of the equation, it tends to be an end user, especially in some of those townhouse and villa communities that we're talking where they're looking to enter the market. We've got people who are moving within the market. They might be living in a 2-bedroom apartment. They've added a kid to the family. Dubai's their home. Kids are in school. They need bigger space. So there are people where they're moving within the market. I remember when I was brokering still, we're both from the UK estate agency backgrounds, chain building and people selling a house to purchase a house to then upsize, and then at the top of the chain you got someone who's downsized or whatever. That wasn't really a thing here. And the system in the secondary market here is pretty difficult still in terms of building chains, but that is happening more and more where people are selling to upsize or people are downsizing. We've got friends where they've made a huge amount of money over the last 4 or 5 years for the property that they purchased. They didn't buy it for that reason. They bought it as a family home, but they're looking at what they've made and the house is bigger than what they need. They've sold it. They're downsizing because they want to be mortgage free. These are sorts of transactions which are happening. You've got your off-plan launches where it might be people don't have to be like massive serial investors or anything. That might be people where they're looking at the launch of a particular property and they've got a little bit of extra cash and they want to make an investment. It might be their first investment. So there's all sorts of different people that are buying here.
So more liquidity in the market where people have basically made money in the last 4 or 5 years. Tell me about because chain building is really important, certainly in the UK, where most people tend to sell before they're able to buy.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people have made money in the last 4 to 5 years. What is the process for someone to buy a property today if they have something to sell? How does that even happen? Because we agree it's not.
It's look, I can talk from personal experience. I purchased my first property here off plan. It was a townhouse in Jumeirah Golf Estates. Got you to thank because you were the driving force behind me selling it and then buying the house I'm in now. But I had a 70% mortgage on it, which was the maximum loan that you could get at the time. And I was looking to upsize. So sold my property for 2.5 million dirhams. I got my mortgage approval for the onward purchase. The problem being, I couldn't get my mortgage approval at the level that I needed until I'd actually sold my existing property and got the clearance documents for that loan. Otherwise, I couldn't get the loan to value that I needed. So in my scenario, I sold my house, clearance documents, everything on the mortgage were done, and I moved into rented accommodation. So I moved into rented accommodation because then that meant I was in a position then to be able to buy at the higher price with the money that I made on my existing house, and also the fact that I had my mortgage approval everything in place. That's the problem that you've got, especially when you've got people who are using finance. They often want to take the maximum loan to value on the onward purchase again, and you can't do that when you've got the existing loan. So either we have to negotiate a rent back period for them from the new owner of the house they're living in, or if we can try and negotiate a period where they're moving into the new property they're buying and rent that from the seller of that one they're purchasing.
Does that happen where you sell your property and the owner that's purchased is allowing you to stay a few months longer with rent, of course, for you to be able to buy on?
Yeah, that does happen. Look, everything's up for negotiation, isn't it? So as long as the person who's purchasing the property is aware of the seller's circumstances, you often find that they will be accommodating and will be flexible. But yeah, that happens all the time. Either we move the seller of property number one into property number two and they rent from their new property, rent the new property they're buying, or they stay in their existing property and we do negotiate something for them. The worst case scenario was the scenario that I found myself in, where I sold my place, the buyer that was buying, they were new to the country, and they were purchased because they wanted to live in there. They had a young child, they were getting them into school. So I moved out. It was in the July. They wanted to be in their house by August. So I moved out and went to a rental property. And then, luckily the house that I'm in now came on the market a couple of months into the rental. This is another point as well, Carl, worth mentioning. It was a property which was a villa. It was on a low rental versus the property price. So nobody was going to buy it for investment purposes. An investor wasn't going to buy the house because the return on it was terrible. But it meant the seller was a little bit more flexible in terms of the price. I had to obviously give the full year's notice to the tenant was in there. But if anybody's looking to try and get what would be considered a bit of a better deal in the market, something like that, where you're purchasing a property which is rented, that can often unlock a slightly better deal for you in terms of like the secondary market. But yeah, it does happen a lot where people are selling to buy on. The process isn't ideal, but as long as there's communication from the broker with both parties, we can always work it out.
And of course, our sales progression team are extremely experienced in handling situations like this.
Yeah.
When you talked about that rental property a moment ago, do you think I want to say low rents, that's the wrong word, but basically where we've had properties where they've probably had COVID rents, do you think that's been flushed out now? We're seeing less.
Yeah, the rental
evicted?
The rental calculator now is a lot more accurate and offers a lot more flexibility. So landlords can push to try and get the rent increases that are warranted. But there's not very many circumstances where the rents are ridiculously below market rate.
Yeah.
Because again, the rent calculator has been a lot more accommodating for landlords, because it was an issue where people were or did have tenancies at really, really low rents, and they weren't following the proper channels in terms of trying to get that rent increase. And a lot of the time they were issuing notices under false pretenses to try and get the property vacant and then try and charge the higher market rent. If you look at the government, I always say this to the sales teams and things, like any of the rules that are put in place by the government, they're not put in place to try and make Dubai real estate agents' jobs easier or to try and help them make more commissions. It's because they've got population figures they need to get to. And if people can't afford to stay here, they're never ever going to meet these targets. So it's something that has obviously changed over the last 12, 18 months. But it's worked itself out whereby the rents are a lot more consistent. And if anything, because of the new handovers and everything which are happening, you mentioned there 500 units going to be entering the market per day. There's going to be a little bit more or a few more options coming to the market for tenants. So if somebody is renting, potentially that extra stock that comes to the market, they'll have a little bit more leverage with their landlords existing.
I have read and seen, not to be fair everywhere, but there are certainly very, very early signs of the rental market potentially softening.
A little bit.
And I know obviously when we look at the market, we can't look at it as in total, because I think how this market operates, in a lot of markets really, they operate in segments, whether it's price bands or communities, property types. Are there any examples of areas, communities where you might think, okay, well, there may be some softening? I think certainly when there's lots of new properties that come to market, let's say, for example, I don't know, somewhere in Business Bay where there's 300 units coming to market, you could see that there, but...
Yeah, so you mentioned Business Bay, JVC could be another example as well, where there's lots of similar property types entering the market, studios, one-bedroom apartments. If you're a tenant, you're not too bothered really. You'd prefer something which is like new and shiny. You're not looking at like the developer and what the future potential in terms of capital growth. You're not bothered if you've got a newer product which is handing over, and like you've said, a lot of these new products have got good amenities and things that are better than the older buildings. Then if there's a huge supply coming to the market, that's going to put a little bit of downward pressure on the pricing. But on the flip side, if you speak to some of our teams, like stuff like the Arabian Ranchers team and things like that, they cannot find any rental properties because you've got families in there who are in there long term. The kids normally go to the local schools. There's not stock coming to the market, so the prices there are a lot more stable and are potentially going to continue to increase. So you can't really just band it together saying rental prices are coming down or they're going up. There's circumstances with every community which will sort of dictate it. So a high volume apartment area where there's lots of handovers and lots of similar property types, you're potentially going to see them come down a little bit.
What's your advice to a landlord in an event where he perhaps can't get the price that he wants? Let's use JVC for example. There's lots of apartments coming to market. Is the value of a good solid tenant that's been here a long time or is a consistent payer, are they just as valuable to as well as the price of what you get?
Yeah, 100%. For me, I would take a good tenant at a lower rent over somebody who's just going to be paying the highest rent. If somebody's, look, there's people that we were working with in terms of like our property management side of the business, what have you. They've had the same tenants in the properties for years, and I mean years, and they'll often keep the rent at the same level and things because they know the tenant, they're reliable, they're looking after the property. A lot of the tenants that we work with, they do treat the property like it's their own.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about just getting the highest possible rental you can on that given day. You've got to look at it in terms of, like you said, having a longer time horizon, just looking at the investment overall, what's going to give you a more reliable return. And often I'd personally take a lower rent from a tenant who's been in there for the last 3 years. I know them, got a good relationship with them. I'd rather keep them in there.
Because there are costs associated to having a property vacant, right? So let's say, for example, you rented something, your tenant leaves, we want to find a new tenant. It doesn't always happen as I'm going to find a tenant tomorrow or next week or next month. Sometimes there could be weeks or months where the property's vacant and waiting for that right person to then go into the property. So there's money there. You are leaving. I think I always say a happy tenant is someone that would probably be prepared to pay more, but obviously will look after the property, and I think that's really, really valuable. Mortgages. What we're seeing from mortgages, because I think what is being floated at the moment, and I don't know if you follow something called Polymarket.
No.
So Polymarket is something.
Are you going to throw a curveball?
No. So Polymarket is not betting, but basically it's projections in what might happen. It could be anything from the presidential election. Polymarket, so people can bet on this, by the way. There is something like 88% chance that the Fed in September will decrease their interest rate. So the thing is practically nailed on.
This sounds like credit default swaps back in, like, everything's short.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's more like a prediction. And sometimes people that do bet on these things kind of know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in it. The Trump's presidential win was very high on the Polymarket thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, what will that do if we see a decrease of interest rates in September by, let's say, 1/4 or even 0.5%?
So that is going to mean that more people are going to enter the market to buy. I think the big thing which people tend to focus on the interest rate, but it's the affordability and the stress testing as well behind it. So you're not necessarily, say the interest rate at the minute, I think it's about 3.99%. There's some options there at 3.89. That's not your affordability. Your affordability is calculated at a much higher percentage. So not only are people going to be paying lower monthly payments, they're going to be able to borrow more money as well. So if the rates do come down, it's only going to make it more affordable for people getting in the market, and that means that more people will want to buy. It was at the beginning of this year, wasn't it? It was Q1 where the central bank said, look, you can't add the purchasing cost to the loans. We discussed, well, is that going to have an impact? We haven't really seen that, have we, in terms of...
No, I think if anything, it's probably, I actually probably believe it's a very minor cooling mechanism.
Yeah.
De-risking the marketplace. I mean, adding fees and stuff like that to your loan, I haven't been honest with you, I've done it. But I think it's probably a sensible thing, knowing that what is coming, the rates will probably come down. They'll probably be able to make it up with cheaper rates anyway in the coming months. Do you think that will result to further increases in property prices?
I think so. Because I don't think they're going to decrease anyway. I think they're going to continue to rise regardless of what happens with the interest rate. If you look at the rates now, they're not high. They're where they were before the lowering of the interest rate. So they're pretty much thereabouts with the average that they've been. Certainly my time in Dubai. If anything, they're probably a little bit lower than when I first got here. So yeah, if they come down slightly, it's going to give people a bigger incentive in terms of like coming to the market to buy as well.
Dubai's a bit of an anomaly because what you normally associate with rising interest rates is decreasing property prices.
Yeah.
And obviously we've had rising rates for, let's call it 2 or 3 years, whatever it might have been.
Well, you think a lot of the interest rates and things, because we're pegged to the dollar, it's not necessarily what's happening on the ground here.
Yeah.
It's what's happening in the US. So yeah, sometimes like, it doesn't really make sense what's happening, but our monetary policy is getting dictated by the US in terms of the interest rates.
But our prices have been increasing even in spite of increasing rates.
Yeah.
Which is, so I do wonder what would happen. I think, this projection of the kind of the market fizzling out, if anything, I think if we see quite a bullish reduction in rates, let's call it 0.5%, Trump's saying there needs to be 1.5 points, 1.5% down, which is a big difference. I still think you'll see a bit of a shot on the arm with property prices.
Don't underestimate as well, Carl, like the amount of cash that's in the market, like outright cash purchases which are happening, but also as well, even if somebody is purchasing with a mortgage, your maximum loan to value below 5 million, it's 20% you still need to put down in terms of a down payment. That's, I think the UK they're back down to like 10%, 5% in terms of like your down payment. So
what do people need to buy a house? And you say 20%, is there anything else associated to them buying a property?
So you need your 20% down payment.
Yeah.
That's your down payment for the loan. You need your 4% in terms of your land department fees, and you need your 2% broker fees. They're your main costs.
So 26% of the total purchase price.
I used to always tell my clients, allow for 27%.
Yeah.
You're overestimating. You're not going to get any surprises at that point. But yeah, they're the main fees that you need to know. So 26% or 27% overestimating of the property purchase price. That's what you need in terms of cash to hand. And that's what everybody who's purchasing is putting down. But there's so many people that is purchasing outright in cash as well. Even the off-plan launches, going back on that subject, the one that I purchased was 30% during construction in terms of cash needed to keep up with the payment plan. We're seeing payment plans now of like 60/40s, 70/30s, 80/20s. Some of them just outright cash payment plans. Even that the off-plan market, there's so much cash which is actually getting
just
invested.
on that, and what is to keep an eye on for everyone watching, or certainly just talking to you. The more aggressive you see the payment plan, so let's say, for example, you pay 80% over the time of construction, the more aggressive they are with that is an indication of how well the market is
The demand.
absorbing and how much is selling.
Yeah.
When you start seeing payment plans change in the favour of more incentives, or, a little bit more balance to 50/50, or even post-payment, that is your first suggestion and signal on prime developments or prime developers that the market is not able to consume or not selling anywhere near as much. We aren't there. I haven't seen anything yet. Normally there is incentives over the summer, which is...
Well, 2019, that was where you were getting 30% during construction, but then they were offering 5-year post-handover payment plans, weren't they?
Yeah.
4% DLD waivers where they were covering the cost of the DLD.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that at the minute.
No, I mean, in these days, in today's times, you can get 50/50 in terms of 50% during construction. You've done very, very well.
Well, there was a launch there last week in Dubai South by Ellington, and the headline figures was 70/30 payment plan. There was slight flexibility in terms of the payment plan if people were purchasing multiple units. I heard a couple where we managed to get the deals on at 60/40s, and I'm a bit taken back thinking, oh God, that's a good deal. That's a good deal in terms of the payment plan. But 60/40, it's double what it was previously. So yeah, you're right. If they do start offering incentives and discounts and things, that's when you look and think, all right, okay.
Also mortgage services. So perhaps not everyone may know that we have our own mortgage brokerage, and we have a very large team that work across all different banks, and we're essentially the middleman between you and the bank to ensure you're not having to deal with all the confusion and the paperwork. We help you navigate that throughout without charging you a penny, by the way. What part do they, because we've had a crazy, well, really year, but certainly July, we've had a very busy July with our mortgage team. What can they do to smooth and ease the process for someone buying?
Well, first of all, I don't understand why any purchaser wouldn't speak to our mortgage team. I used to always offer it to clients because they're given independent, like non-preferential advice. If you bank with HSBC and you want to get a mortgage with HSBC, they're only going to tell you about HSBC products. They're not going to tell you that Emirates MBD have got this particular product where it's 0.25% cheaper, the arrangement fees are a lot less and what have you. So even if it's just first and foremost for peace of mind that you're getting the best possible deal in the market, speak to them because they can compare the whole market for you. But in terms of what they offer you through the process, if you're a first-time buyer, they're going to hold your hand for the entire process. They're going to arrange the valuation. They're going to liaise with the banks. They're going to make sure that everything is getting done for you because there's so many steps that you need to go through when you are a buyer and you're buying with finance. They're going to make that whole process smooth for you where you're not worried about it. You know exactly what's happening. But as I said, mate, for me, peace of mind that you're getting the best possible deal you possibly can. Because if you extrapolate that across 30 years, it can cost you a lot of money if you go with the wrong bank.
Do you know what a common myth is? And I've gone through this experience recently. I do bank with HSBC and a couple of the banks, but anyway, we're dealing with HSBC. It isn't any easier by dealing with your bank than dealing with another. People seem to think, oh, well, I'll deal with my bank and they know all the information. You still have to submit the same information, whether it's a credit report, bank statements, if you're self-employed, audits. So the fact that someone says, I'll deal with my bank, I get it because it's quite an old way of thinking of things. But for me, you know, I always look at, okay, well, who will lend me the money? What's the easiest process? What's the lowest rate? What's the best deal I can get? And ultimately, when you're a year into only 6 months, and you don't really think about who's lending you the money.
No, it's you ask the question, what can I offer it? 100% peace of mind that you've got the best possible product. And look, that's the thing. You've said we don't charge a fee for it. It's free advice. The only reason that you'd move ahead with the guys on our team is because they've been able to save you some money and offer you some value. Even if it's just that, do you know what, Cole? Yeah, we can't beat the product you've got. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm always go ahead with it.
Yeah.
I'd be entering the transaction a lot happier that, okay, yeah, I've got the best deal I can.
And also navigating the paperwork as well, which is also very difficult. Yes, there's lots of stuff involved, and they can help with that, which I think is really, really important.
They can't help you with making sure that you sign the check as per your Emirates ID. I went through. You need to issue 3 checks, isn't it?
Yes.
I think I went through about 20 checks to make sure that it matched. I can't do my signature.
I actually don't write anymore.
No.
And I had to do something the other day, and I thought, I think I forgot how to write this. It's not good. Somebody
type pen like this. Like.
It's bizarre. Mate, before we wrap up, a few more things. So we have had a exponential growth in headcount this year, and that will only continue over the coming months. Tell us about the existing team right now. I mean, what's really pleasing for me is when I speak to other people in other companies, the vast majority are actually very complimentary of our business and how long we've been here. And we're certainly, a cornerstone of the secondary marketplace, and we're making huge inroads. And what do you think the perception is of Allsop as a team, and with certain strengths in area?
So we've got fantastic quality brokers. One of the big things I love about this business is like someone like us. I've been here for 11 years. There's so many of the senior guys within the company where they've being promoted from within. A lot of the top guys that are still out in the field doing the job, they've been with us for 10 plus years, which that's fantastic because people are learning from people who've been there and done it. In terms of newer people coming in as well, we're seeing people doing their first deals. Like, we try and be really realistic when people are coming to join us, because it's a big commitment. They're coming from the UK or any other country. They're packing up their lives, and it is a compliment that they're trusting us with that. But we're seeing the time in terms of how long it takes from them getting onto the sales floor or the lettings floor and actually getting their first deals done. That is so much shorter than what it ever has been. So it shows that the training that you get here in terms of like, I mean, the training department, we've completely this year redesigned our training program, haven't we, from start to finish. It's a lot more hands-on, it's a lot more interactive in terms of actually doing the job. Like Selena, who's heading up BL&D, she's done an absolutely fantastic job with that. So getting top quality training. As I said, trusting us with where they move here, it is a massive compliment. But even from the July review that we did, it was 41 personal bests in July alone. 27 people did their first deal.
Amazing.
You know, numbers like that, Carl, that shows that we're doing something right.
I've said it before, there's nowhere in Dubai where you should be starting your career here. The amount of time and effort you get, not just from the training team, but for like yourself, who is, you know, a real veteran, and Mark Walters and the management team. You know, when you come here, you know, you're getting the right advice of people who have been truly successful, have done the job, know what they're talking about, you know, have navigated different marketplaces, upward and downward markets. So, you know, we're very equipped for whatever may happen in the future, upward, downward markets, and the ecosystem that the business offers the teams of staying in the business and different services, I think is just, you know, unrivaled. And I think, you know, with us increasing headcount quite significantly, what does that mean to the clients in terms of, you know, obviously whether you're dealing with someone with experience, you know, what we are ultimately looking to achieve is increase our footprint across Dubai.
That's the big thing. So with more staff on the ground, that means that, you mentioned the ecosystem, it means that if we can have a presence, and a good presence, that's the thing. You can't just have one or two people in an area which is, you know, rooftops of 5,000. It just doesn't work. So if we're able to grow the teams in the areas, and we're strategically looking at these locations, we've just started a brand new sales team again there this morning. It'll be the third or fourth one in terms of a brand new team that we've actually started from, okay, this is a community which is getting some traction. We want to build a team in it. But if we're able to do that across the whole of Dubai, it means that you shouldn't have to go anywhere else. We can take care of you from start to finish. If you register your interest because you want to look in the Springs, for example, and you can't find what you want there, but you want to look at a community along the Al Qudra corridor, if you want to look somewhere as far as the Valios, Demo South, we can pass you on to a specialist in that area. And I always had that. I had 100% peace of mind. If I had a client that wanted a particular location, I'm not just passing it on to somebody who does that area. I'm normally passing on to somebody who is the market leader in that area. So I've got a really, really good chance of getting the deal done, but satisfying the client's needs. And you mentioned there in terms of like the mortgage side of things, it doesn't matter what you're purchasing for. If it's for investment, we've got the holiday home side of the business, lettings, whatever, property management, we can take care of your property needs. So yeah, in terms of like, and again, I'm not just saying that because you sat opposite, but in terms of like yourself and Lou, I remember we had our record quarter in quarter one. You're very demanding. Like you're not, but that's the exciting thing. Like for me, but also for the guys on the floor, like you're not satisfied with where we're at. I know you're happy, but you're constantly pushing to be number one. So look, if you can be part of that sort of environment and you buy into it, you're going to do all right yourself.
Yeah. Market share. So in all of Dubai is very fragmented. You know, you've got different communities, different segments, and you tend to have different companies having different niches and specialties.
Yeah.
But we do actually track our share in market. What that means for anyone watching is, of a community, how many properties we sell versus all of the transactions that happen. And maybe you can share some of the percentages we've have in some of the communities we're selling right now.
Yeah, well, one of the goals that you set me for the beginning of this year was we wanted 15 plus communities where we had double digits in terms of market share, so 10% plus. During golf estates, we're selling one in every 3 properties. Some months this year, we sold one in every 2. The Urban Ranchers team, again, 1 in every 4 properties we're selling so far this year. Some months we've actually sold 1 in every 2. Yeah, you tend to find with a lot of our villa teams, we've got really, really high market share. One really pleasing statistic to date is JBR. It's a high volume apartment area. We've got honestly, they're the best JBR team that are out there in the market, like bar none. They're almost doing 1 in every 5 transactions there. So if you look at a really, really high volume apartment area, that is some going for a team to be able to do that. But yeah, look, we're not happy in terms of where we're at across the board. So that's where we're looking strategically to add people. If we see like, okay, there's a lot of demand for this particular community, we've built teams there. And we're constantly trying to grow the market shares across the board.
But we're edging anywhere between 12 and 15 communities minimum with double-digit growth.
Oh yeah, 15 communities so far this year, double-digit growth. And yeah, in a lot of them, we're exceeding 25%.
Because there's a common perception of when you come to Dubai and people see the size of our business, is there enough business? And I think by the fact we have probably 3.5% to 4% maximum total share of a Dubai marketplace.
Yeah.
And then in certain communities, late single digits, maybe early double, sometimes 20, 30, 40%.
Yeah.
I look at that as even if we're selling 50% of properties in a particular community, the first thing I'm thinking is, I can get the other 50.
This is what I'm saying. This is where yourself and Lewis, like, you're never happy with this. Like,
no.
What about the other half? Yeah,
no, it's there. Why can't we have 100% to sales? Why can't we?
No, that's true.
And I think with our teams growing and obviously different things we're doing this year, I think we'll get there.
I think you need another floor in here soon. There's been another rejig. There's only so ways you can jig it around.
Exactly that. We've got something coming up pretty soon. Recruitment Roadshow.
Yeah,
we've got one coming up in
end of September, beginning of October. Yeah, Manchester and London.
You have seen, and I'm sure you've had friends that have come to these events and what does it take for someone to be successful out here? Because it's not for everyone. No. It's not for the weak-hearted.
No.
What is it that if someone's got something or is a pattern or something, what can they expect?
The big thing for me, if you want to make Dubai real estate work, you have to be, and we've said it previously, you have to be all in. You have to be fully invested in terms of making it work. I was speaking to somebody the other day who they said that we're getting towards the last couple of £1,000 in terms of their savings, but then later on in the conversation, they mentioned that they still had a car in the UK. I was like, okay, which car payment? Oh no, I haven't got any finance on it. Okay, what car is it? And he told me. I was like, sell it. If you want to make it work, go all in. But you have to live it, you have to breathe it. I joined in July 2014 and I was giving myself a 6-month window to just literally do everything I possibly could to make it work. I had a surprise leaving party, which I didn't want because then that meant it puts the pressure on you. And I thought, I can't go back home saying I failed. But I had a 6-month window, that initial first 6 months, where I just thought, right, I'm going to go in every day. If it doesn't work out and I'm back in Newcastle, at least I can say I gave it 100%. You don't want to be one of those people where you think to yourself, okay, could have done more. So I think in terms of like making it work, you've got to have a winning mindset. You've got to be prepared to go all in. Yes, Dubai's got an amazing, I'm going to say the L word, there's an amazing lifestyle, but that can wait, Yeah. Are you going to enjoy it when you're coming over here initially and you're trying to get that momentum and make things work? Or are you going to enjoy it in 2 years, 3 years where you've actually got the money to hand, you're comfortable, and you actually enjoy the real benefits of living here? So.
You probably shouldn't be enjoying Dubai in that first 12 months, and that sounds wild to say, but...
Well, I remember Gary, your dad, it was in my induction, and he was just warning us, said, look, guys, don't go out and stuff like that. He's like, don't try and keep up with the top guys. They're earning footballers' money. You can't keep up with them. I remember thinking, oh, God, yeah, but he was right. Like, you can't do that. You've just, when you first get here, it's about getting through the first 6 to 12 months, doing what it takes to make that happen, doing the room share. I hear people coming in and think they're going to get these 1-bedroom apartments in the marina and driving a BMW because I want a home. Don't, get the Toyota Yaris, get the Chevy Spark, rent the room share, keep your costs down as low as you possibly can, because if you're coming over here with we normally tell people £8,000 for rentals, which that's enough of a buffer. Sales, we tend to say around the £15,000 mark, because it does take a little bit longer. If you do deals, even in month 1, it'll take roughly 8 to 10 weeks for that money to actually come through into your account. But if you've got your costs at £3,000 a month and you're coming into sales, that's £5,000 worth that's 5 months worth of costs you've got there. If you can keep it really, really low down to the £2,000 mark, well, you buy yourself an extra few months where if it hasn't happened, or if the transactions have taken a little bit longer to get through, you're just buying yourself more time and giving yourself a better opportunity.
It's just, I think people perhaps too keen to impress others, or maybe drink their money away, which is probably one of some of the biggest reasons why people don't make it.
But you mentioned there, I've probably had friends that have joined, and I've had friends and family join the business. If you speak to any of them and ask me if I ever told them to join, I told them all not to come here. I wanted them to make the decision on their own terms. I didn't want them to ever join here thinking, okay, well, Dan said X, Y, and Z. I've always said, look, it's tough. it's 24/7, 365. If you want to make it work, you've got to be all in. I've really unsold it, but at the end of it, I'll always wrap up the conversation and say, but it's the best thing I've ever done. And if you ask me to make the decision 100 times over, 100 times over, I'd be out here.
And it's changed your life.
It has. I mean, I remember we had a conversation. I'd been here for about 12 months or something like that. And it was when you were still heading up the UK operation. And I remember you having the conversation with me saying, you asked me in terms of like what I'd been able to save up. And I set myself a monetary goal. I was like, okay, if I can get to this figure, that's where I want to be. And you asked me, you just said, look, mate, what have you managed to save? And I told you. And you were like, that's impressive. Well done. And then I said, yeah, if I can get to this figure, I'd be really pleased. And you just shut me down straight away. And you said, Dan, you're thinking too small. You should make sure that Allsop and Allsop is the last company you work for. If you leave here, you shouldn't have to work for anybody else. And that kind of like, it stuck with me. I thought, okay, yeah, I need to start dreaming bigger. And you've seen people where they've actually, they're not retired, but they don't work anymore. And they've started off at Allsop and Allsop.
And we encourage it. I think that's a big thing about moving from the UK to here. I think limiting beliefs. People believe you can only go, reach X, Y, Z. And I think the power of this business is there's so many winners around you. And there's so many examples of people being successful, and that is so infectious. And actually, probably one of the biggest strengths is because there are so many winners, because there are so many examples, it makes you think, oh, I can do that.
The thing as well, Carl, it's important to say, they're also good people. You see a lot of people, and you do it with a lot of people here where it's like, okay, you've changed a lot, but I think the guys we've still got within our company, the long-serving guys, they're some of the most humble people in the business still, which is good because it means when people join, they hopefully are as humble, or they don't let it get too far, get ahead of themselves. They do make like wise decisions in terms of what they want to do, and in terms of the goals that they're setting of things, it's often because they want to better their lives, better their families' lives. It's not about going out and buying flash cars or doing this or doing that. I feel like the reasons that here are a lot more pure, and that's one thing I really like as well.
So if you listen to this, watching this, our Recruitment Roadshow is happening in September. I don't have the dates to hand, which we will share somewhere, hopefully in the caption or in the notes below. But what I would say to anyone watching or listening and has some intrigue in Dubai or about Dubai, or certainly also an Allsop, for 2, maybe 3 hours of your time to go and see our team who are spending their time to come and really see you guys, them 2 to 3 hours could completely change the trajectory of your life and even others around you, your families or friends or girlfriends' lives, wife's life. So please do yourself a favor, have a call with the guys, go and see them, because that little amount of time that you invest could make a huge difference to where life might be. So watch out for that. We'll have lots of information go about over the coming weeks. Dan, it's been a pleasure. We've gone on for a very, very long time. I'm excited about what Dubai has throughout the rest of this year. I think with what's going on with the interest rates, all these new launches happening, population probably going to creep over 4 million between now and the end of the year. Loads to be excited about. This train is not stopping. It's not slowing down. My advice would be jump on while you can before the train gets away.
100%. Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you, mate.